Are we recording yet? Okay, welcome everyone to the Glendale-River Hills School District Board meeting, May 7th, Wednesday. I'm gonna pull up my agenda, call the meeting to order and roll call beginning with Katie Avalos. Here. Chris Robinson. Here. Karen Conwell. Here. Danielle Bailey. Here. Carla Pennington Cross is here. All are present and accounted for. At this time, if you wish, you may stand to join in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Moving on to item 1D, agenda approval. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 1E, approval of board meeting minutes from April 16, 2025.
I move to approve the April 16th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Second. Any discussion or comments?
Yeah, these are wonderful, but I did notice that in the detailing of the student fees and meal prices approval, the motion is indicated with regards to, oh, you know what? I am confused and it is done. It is not an issue. I misread it. We're all good.
Okay. I would like to note that I learned this week that Chris, who does sort of the substantive work around these meetings, these minutes to make sure they're accurate and thorough, re-watches the meeting, which is
Not always.
Oh,
Only if
okay.
my notes are really bad.
Well, I just want to thank you for that commitment because that's a lot of work. So thank you for doing that. These are excellent. Thank you, Diana and Chris. Okay, all in favor then?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the board meeting minutes for April 16th are approved. Moving on to 1F, the meeting grounding, and I will lead this today. And I just thought I just want to share some thoughts because it's Teacher Appreciation Week, and we'll be hearing from some teachers today around math programming, human growth and development. So this feels like a good day to ground us in thinking about teachers. What I was thinking about as I sat with this is that in traditional Korean culture, my mother's culture, to be a teacher, which is called 선생님, is the honorific, is considered like one of the highest callings. Teachers are revered in traditional Korean culture. And I think the calling is revered not because of obviously not because of the wealth and power it generates, but rather because of the gifts it brings. Gifts of knowledge, values, responsibility, critical thinking, curiosity, choice, all those things. And as my mom has always told me, being a person who survived, great trauma in Korea, she's 92, so Japanese occupation, Korean War, World War II, she would always tell me growing up, the world can take everything from you, everything. All your wealth, all your worldly goods, your family, everything, but it cannot take from you what you've learned. What teachers give you is the one thing the world can't take away from you. And I've always carried that with me, and I believe that. So I view teachers as sort of the vanguard of humanity, right? You are the ones who empower your students with those intellectual and emotional and social tools that shape our future. Nelson Mandela, who helped lead South Africa out of apartheid, said, education is the most powerful weapon that you can use to change the world. That's an interesting use of war language, right? But it's this power, I think, which is just built on enabling knowledge and critical thinking that I think of as, kind of the reason why education, in particular public education, feels to me like it's under attack in Wisconsin and in parts of America. And it's really hard sometimes for me to hold on hope. So I'm grateful to be sitting here with people who are dedicated to public education in a house where teachers come every day with a also shared dedication to the future and to hope for our children. It just feels good to do that. Our teachers serve as much more than information disseminators in K-8, mentors, caregivers, sources of comfort and safety for students and their families, and dreamers and advocates for the students we serve. So, ask my board members tonight to join me as we work through our agenda tonight in thinking about our teachers, not just as a cohort, a bunch of data points like you suggested with students recently, but also as human beings directly impacted by every decision we make. Human beings who have good days and bad days, who are striving to serve our kids as best they can in a job that's relentless, as you know, who deserve our appreciation and our dedicated advocacy. And I know that's why the 5 of us are here. I found this quote from Malala Yousafzai, I'd never say it right, who was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for her fight for the right of every child to receive an education. And she wrote this thought, which is grounding me tonight as I prepared, and hopefully I will keep it in mind. She wrote, "Let us pick up our books and our pens. They are our most powerful weapons. One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world." All right. Danielle has had an emergency of some kind. Moving on to 2A, public comments. At this time, we will entertain comments on non-agenda items from any visitors. Anyone online? Okay. Moving on to 3A, middle school math programming update. Hello again.
Hello, everyone. Get started. In your packet, we shared the board report. So today we're just going to be going over on the slide deck that was shared in that packet, and Michelle's going to kind of walk us through some of the history. Last year we were here with Natalie Block and Michelle proposing doing this hybrid of the accelerated 6th grade with it embedded within the 6th grade classroom. And we're just kind of circling back with that data that we collected so far this year, keeping in mind we only have a beginning of the year and a mid-year data collection. So we're going to continue to collect that data, and we're going to share that information with you now and make some
All right, so like Jenica said, this is following up on what we put into works last year. And so last year, we were looking at the data that we had for our middle school classes and noticing that as students move through 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, that our students who were double accelerated, who were already performing at the 97th, 98th, 99th percentile, were holding their gains as they moved through the middle school. But what we were noticing is our students who were in the accelerated sections of math, so who were completing 3 years of math in 2 years and moving on to algebra, were not maintaining their proficiency, their math level of proficiency, and the same for our grade level students. Our students taking that fuller, that faster route through mathematics, and our grade level students were not keeping up. They were dipping as they went further through middle school. And so we kind of problem solved a little bit. We came up with the idea because we still wanted students to be able to accelerate. We think that that is something that's valuable for a number of students in our population. And so we came up with the idea of having students basically jump a grade level. We're able to do that by completing 2 grade levels at once. We did this, another reason why we did this is because our classrooms end up, because we're a small district with 4 sections of students in a grade level, we end up with those students who were in the accelerated math class basically being together all day long, and then the rest of our math classes looking, and 8 ELA classes and social studies classes carried over, looking very different. than are that one section of accelerated. And so that felt very inequitable, like thinking about it, but also being in the room, felt like very different. So what we did this year is we spoke with parents at the beginning of the year and with students and let them know that this is an option for whoever wants to try it out. So parents could advocate for their students could sign up for it themselves. And what students did is they worked on the 6th grade math lesson during the class with all of their peers. And then when it was time to work on homework or time to work on individual work, instead of doing 6th grade work, they could do 7th grade work. Students who were successful with this would be able to, they would finish 6th and 7th grade standards within the 6th grade year, and then the following year move to 8th grade general math to complete that. So students doing that would still get to algebra in 8th grade and still be able to go into high school a year ahead of what typical students would do. Students are doing this work. They are in my classroom, they are in Mr. Weston's classroom, so they have a teacher with them that they can ask questions of who are knowledgeable about the grade levels. Mr. Weston has taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math for a number of years. I work with 4th through 8th graders in the past, and so we're comfortable answering their questions. As far as the logistics of working through Khan Academy and how the units were laid out to coincide well with the way the 6th grade units were laid out, so we're not having them jump past content to go back to content. That was work that I did, and then finessing the year with pacing to see what worked for students. And is this a good amount? Do I need to pull back a little bit? And then testing with them on 7th grade concepts that was on me as well. But students needed to do, they needed to get at least a B average on their 6th grade content to be able to work on this. If they needed more help than that, if their grades went lower than that, then that was not something that was going to work for me.
Can I ask a question? I may be getting out of it, but I'm just gonna impulsively ask what's in my mind. If you have 6th graders doing the accelerated work to access 7th grade math concepts, are they also taking the 7th grade STAR assessments, or are they still continuing to only take the 6th grade STAR assessments?
So STAR is STAR. It adapts to the student, and so when they log in, it looks at what they did before and starts from there, giving them problems. So it's not.
Oh, I see. So it's they're just
Anybody. yeah,
they're
it
just
goes through
percentile against other 6th graders.
Yeah.
It's not based on curriculum by grade.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask, I know you start putting numbers, I think, throughout down here, but how many 6th grade students did you have in this school year, this slide we're looking at, who are working to accelerate?
So right now we have 12 students. We started with more at the beginning of the year as we started to do more testing, and as we started to move through units, some students decided, you know what, I would rather work with the 6th grade and not move on with the 7th grade. Some students dropped out and then came back in again, because as they were leaving, we're like, you know, math gets hard sometimes, and right now it's hard, but it'll get easier again. Let's give it a try. And so a couple of students did come back in after not feeling comfortable for them.
And we do have the 12, but we have 5 students that are in the 7th grade accelerated, the 6th grade students. So they already jumped in.
Okay.
Yeah, so just when you think about all
17
the
6th
students
graders
who are-
total are doing acceleration.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
I'm Danielle Fredlick, by the way.
Hi.
I'm new this year for Glen Hills. I do
Welcome back.
Yes,
Welcome.
welcome, yes, 2009, I think it was, I graduated, so yes. So I do half the day intervention with Michelle, and then I teach a 7th grade class and an 8th grade class. So that is why I'm here today too with Michelle. So then on the next slide, we put some information about 7th grade. It is the same as last year, so there are students who are in the regular 7th grade math,
where they do that lesson time each day, work on Khan Academy homework, and then we'll go into 8th grade, grade level for that. And then we do have a 7th grade accelerated math class as well, where they're working on 7th grade and 8th grade standards in that class time. And they too are doing Khan Academy, which is a mixture of 7th and 8th grade standards in there as well. They will then move on to algebra for next year as an 8th grader. And then there are a few kids who are double grade advanced in that group too, in 7th grade.
Is the time format the same? Is it the 60 minutes, 20 minutes, same as the 6th grade?
And then 8th grade, same as well as last year. 8th grade grade level math is offered. Again, lesson time, Khan Academy work, and then they will continue or work to get to Algebra 1 at Nicolay in their freshman year. And then we do offer 9th grade algebra here at Glendale-River, where they're working on algebra concepts. As an 8th grade student, there are a few 7th grade students in that class as well, as we mentioned before, and they do practice problems from the curriculum that we have. And then they will move on to either geometry or honors geometry based off of the teacher's belief of that student, where they should be.
Just to clarify, so there's an algebra class that's like on the students. It's not like they're working on concepts within an 8th grade math classroom. Are you finding the tracking like scheduling tracking issues by having this like class that kids get into through acceleration? Are you having the same issues that you were identifying previously?
Yeah.
Scheduling, okay.
Yeah, that's throughout the middle school.
Okay.
6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Oh, okay.
So then next we'll be looking at star math data for this year. As Jenica said, that'll be September math data and September star data and January star data. We are just starting star testing this week, so that wouldn't be ready for this meeting at all. And so 2 things to think about, we have on the slide scale scoring. And so what that is the problems that are the points that students get based on the difficulty of the problem and how many problems they get correct. So that scaled score is just looking, they get 34 problems, they get a variety of problems. If it's an easier problem, they get fewer points. If it's a more difficult problem, they get more points. The percentile is comparing students with other students across the country. So if you're at the 75th percentile, it doesn't mean that you know 75% of content. It means like looking at the other people in the country, you perform better than 74% of people, 75% of the people. And so I had the data and I kind of put it in an overview here so you can kind of compare the sections with one another or the groups of students with one another, and then we break it out into data. So in 6th grade level math, so far this year, in again September to January, there were 28 points. Average growth for a year is about 20 points or a little bit more, so they did a really nice job growing. They grew 8 percentile points. To grow percentile points is really something. Students working to advance to 8th grade math in the fall, they grew 22 points this year, and they grew 3 percentile points. Now they're already testing at a high percentile, so for them to grow percentile points is a little bit trickier. And same with scale score growth, 232, because they've already mastered more content than their peers have. So them moving forward is a little, they've already done a lot of growth. And then students who are advanced 1 year or more in math, so they're currently in 7th grade accelerated or they're in algebra, they grew 7 points this year and grew 0 percentile points because they're already at 97, 98, 90%. And so these, the next slide is the actual numbers that we have. So our grade level students are started at 1027 for their scale score. They grew to 1055 for the average scale score. They're both 28 points, and the percentile ranks from 45th, just a little below average, to 53, a little bit above average, growing 8 points. our students working to advance, 1107 scale score to 1129 scale score, percentile rate 86% to 89%. And then our students who are already moved up a grade level, 1181 scale score to 1188 and 98 to 90.
No room for growth.
Yeah.
Well, it can be kind of misleading. It looks like, oh, we've left our kids at the top behind, but it's not true. They're already, you simply cannot improve
Right.
on that standardized test, yeah.
It's also interesting, this is an aside, but like when you get those star score reports on your kids and they're scoring that high, they'll be like, your child did not improve this time. It like makes it seem like they've done something wrong, and I'm like, you can't.
Been there, done that, yeah.
Yeah.
This is more what I expected to see, like a little bit of drop,
Yes.
because you kind of left those skills behind, or, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
On this slide is the 7th grade data. So for the grade level, they did a growth of 13 points from the fall to the winter, which is a 2% growth for that. For the accelerated class, which is covering 7th and 8th grade, there's a 10-point growth. And then the percentile did drop 1 percentage for that. But as we mentioned, they are already at a higher level. And then the advanced 1 year or more in math, they did drop 14 points from fall to winter, and then only a 1% tile point drop.
How many students are we talking about in 7th grade that are accelerated?
23.
23. Okay.
Do we need to cant the screen better for you guys to be able to see it? It isn't really ideally positioned for you guys.
I can move it seats.
Or you can come sit with us.
Yeah, I can move my chair too.
Yeah. So then the exact data went for the grade level, 7th grade was a 1031 to a 1044, and then percentile jumped from a 36th percentile to a 38 percentile. Still below average, but improving. And then the accelerated went from 1136 to 1146, so a 10-point jump. And their percentage went down by 1, but went from an 89 to an 88, which is still great. And then those who are in advanced 1 year or more went from 1194 to 1180. So they did drop 14 points there, but they went from a 97 percentile to only a 96 percentile. And then we also have 8th grade data there for you. So 8th grade level, grade level was a 21-point growth, which was a 6 percentile increase. And then the accelerated class, which is algebra, was a 14-point growth, which was a 1 percentile growth. And then advanced 1 year or more in geometry or algebra 2 at Nicolay made a 21-point growth, and that was went down 1 percentile. And the breakdown of the numbers again is for the grade level, 8th grade was a 1025 to a 1046, which was the 26th percentile to the 32nd percentile, which is a good growth. Lower than what we'd like to see for 8th grade, but they clearly are improving.
Yeah.
Also, on the previous slide, it sounds like we have at least one student who's triple accelerated then, if he's doing algebra 2.
Yes.
So clearly we're differentiating quite a bit.
Yeah.
Can I ask, do you feel like there's been an impact on like the 8th grade students in 8th grade math by like being with kids who are accelerated, or like this is just normal growth, we'd want to, like, are you seeing a positive impact by keeping these classes a little bit more diverse, or?
I think that the jump we see this year is that we had to change the personnel, and so we have new staff in there doing new things.
Okay.
And so I think that accounts for a lot of.
8th grade still has 2 separate classes. Only 6th grade.
Well, the 6th grade and the 7th. Well, I'm just looking at the students who are doing the math in 8th grade.
And like the students who are accelerated at grade level, they're mastering concepts that are above grade level, and so those get higher points on their test because the test sees them as a 7th grader, but the problem is an 8th grade problem, so they get more points for it.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So Michelle, based on the data that you're sharing here tonight, we see that there's we're seeing more growth in sixth grade than we are in seventh and eighth. Overall, in terms of moving student achievement forward, as a whole, right? And what we're seeing is that we're holding steady with our other two grade levels, essentially with those students who are at the upper end are holding pace with maintaining their current level of performance and we're not seeing any decline in performance, correct?
So
Okay.
what we had seen for 4 years was much better.
Yeah, thank you.
So the numbers for eighth grade then it did come to, I think I said it was 1025, and up to 1046 for the grade level, and then 26th percentile to 32nd percentile. Those who are in accelerated, which is algebra for eighth grade, was at an 1136 and jumped up to an 1150, which is a 14-point increase, and then 84th percentile to 85th percentile. Which is very high. And then those that are advanced 1 year or more was at a 1199 and jumped up to a 1220, and that's the 98th percentile down to the 97th percentile. And then demographics, so this is per parent identified on the campus that we grabbed some data from. So we broke it down for the population of Glen Hills in the first row, and then we categorized it for the sixth graders working to accelerate, the seventh grade acceleration class, and also the eighth grade accelerated class. And as you can see in the numbers, it doesn't, those who are in accelerated courses don't quite align to what the population of Glen Hills has here. So we wanted to just point that out with this. We would love to see more involved in the accelerated, but it doesn't, right now, currently it doesn't apply or correlate with what the school represents.
And I was hoping that by removing kind of a gatekeep, that we would see a more of a change in that, and it was so frustrating to me to not see that, and so that makes me want to dig in a little bit more to see, okay, what is it, math identity, and is it like, when does it start, well, how does it happen, when are we seeing it, what can we do about it? So that would be like next steps. So I was excited thinking this would be a one less hurdle for kids to go over, and it is, but it's not enough, and it didn't really change our numbers the way I was hoping it would change our numbers.
Well, there are 5 grades that come before,
Yeah, right.
that you can't change that experience with, what's happening starting in 6th grade. So I think the exploration isn't just what you're doing in 6th grade, but what's happening at Parkway and through that chain of learning and culture, math culture. But I love that you are thinking about what you can do. And I don't want to minimize that, but as I think about like where responsibility and accountability lies, I think it's a longitudinal look that is going to help shed the greatest light on that, right?
Can I ask, sorry about the demographics, the Glen Hills total population you're using, that's 4th through 8th grade, right? And then you're looking, but you're using, okay.
And
So
right.
I'm wondering if it's different if you take if it changes at all, if you just take the demographics of the grades you're looking at.
And at the same time, like we have a couple of students from 5th grade who are in 6th grade math classes, and we have a couple of students from 6th grade who are in 7th grade math classes, and so on.
Right.
And so I kind of went back and forth about what to do and how to do it, and I ended up just doing this, but I can't break it down that way.
Just curious if it
get a
changes
better-
any.
That's interesting,
Or
that's
not.
true.
And so I gave surveys to the students who were within the program at this point. And giving surveys, I like to give surveys to students because you can hear things from them on a survey that they wouldn't necessarily tell you face to face. And so at the same time, that could be a little bit terrifying. It was good stuff, and you get helpful information to point you in other directions you hadn't been thinking of before. And so we have 12 students in it. At the time of the survey, there were 13 students who were were taking part, and I left it anonymous, and when it's anonymous, you can't limit students to completing the survey once. So I think someone completed it a second time. And I, like, I know. So I open it and close it within a day to try and avoid that, but
Someone double dipped.
yeah. So how's the workload been this year? So comfortable and mostly comfortable is like 7/8 of how students are feeling right there, which is nice. Mostly difficult, about 1/8 of our students, and then difficult was nobody. How much time do you spend a week on the 7th grade homework? I wanted to know if this is like a big ask for them, and if they're really putting in long hours at home, because if it is, that's not really a manageable thing to ask for our students. So 14% said they got the work done in class. Another 21% said I don't get the work completed in class, but I do get it completed while I'm at school. 43% said I spend half an hour or less on it at home in a week, and 21% said I spend more than half an hour a week on it at home. So to me, half an hour or less a week and at home or in school, that ends up making what, 60, 70, almost 80% of our students. To me, that's a pretty good numbers, yeah. So there on Khan Academy, the way Khan Academy is set up is they have a introduction video to a concept that could be 6 to 8 minutes long, and then they have a problem set to look in to practice the problems. And if you get a problem wrong, then it has a 2 or 3 minute video that can go through what are the steps to solving the problem. And so I asked the kids, do you watch the videos before attempting the problems? Do you watch the shorter videos when you get them wrong, or do you not watch the videos? And so 36% said, oh, no, I watched the videos before. 43% said, well, I try it, and if I'm not where I want to be, I go back and I watch the smaller videos, which to me is a really logical, practical thing to do. And then 21% says videos, what videos are good.
I think that's a paraphrase. I would have been a kid who was like, wait, there are videos?
Yeah. Yeah. And then, how many times do you ask your teacher for help with the work? And so 64% said never, 21% said about once a month, 14% said about once a week, and no one said more than once a week. And so this is something that made me think, and Chris, you had sent me this question as well. And when I first saw it, I'm like, are they scared of us? Are they not comfortable? What's going on? Are they intimidated? But then I was thinking about kids in general, and kids in general, you have your group of kids who will come up and ask you a question, and you have the rest of the class that's just waiting for someone else to ask the question, or I guess my question doesn't get answered. And so these are our students who are more comfortable about it, but this still makes me a bit uncomfortable. But we are for the past month or so, I've been able to schedule weekly check-ins with them myself, so that I'm like waiting for a kid to ask a question is not really the way to go anyway. And so my intent was to check in with my students working on advancement that are in my classroom. I check in, and so just being purposeful about making sure that someone is reaching out to them instead of waiting for them to reach out. How often do you ask your family or a friend for help with the work? 7% never, 7% more than once a week, and then the rest are evenly split between about once a week and more than once a week. And again, this kind of surprised me, but thinking about my own kids and them being more comfortable asking family for help or working through a problem at the same time as their peers are and saying, did you understand this problem? I didn't get it. What did you do? And so that being a comfortable thing for them to do in general, students in general. And so that made me think about that. But again, I'd love to be the person they reach out to.
Do you observe that kids who are doing the accelerated work are caballing together?
Some of them are.
You know what I mean, like sitting together, kind of pulling out the computers, like, hey, let's look at this together.
It depends on, I have seating arrangements in my room at times, so, they don't always get that chance, to do that, so, but yeah.
Because that's where my head went as you were talking about this. I am curious about, as I ruminate on my own experience, why you would go to a parent instead of a teacher. But then I also know that there's some research around how a tremendous amount of learning happens peer to peer. And that access to peers who are doing that work might also be an unobserved way in this survey that kids are learning.
And it sticks better and
Yeah.
they put more value in it a lot of times.
Well, one thing I was thinking too is that if you look at the breakdown, it's 60 minutes of lesson and 20 minutes with con. So I'm like, how much time do you have to even formulate a question? And how much time does the teacher have in that 20 minutes with several people doing, and this is how I imagine it, doing independent learning or their own thing. So there's also maybe a little bit of that, I don't want to burden my teacher maybe, or I don't have enough time to like formulate the ask until I process it a little more, is where my head goes in terms of like the timing, but.
Yeah, so that's why, another reason why I moved to the once a week check-ins,
Yeah.
and that's something I want to be a part of it if we're able to move forward with it.
Yeah.
And so, we asked them two open-ended questions. What do you wish was different about the learning this year, and what do you think worked well about the learning this year? And this is their language, I copied it.
We just talked about any like overall.
So it was nice to see that they were not too, there are things about what they wish they would change. There were a few people who said, you know, I'd really like it to be a class. I'd like to be learning from a teacher and doing that traditionally. But then there were also other people who are like, I like that I can get it done quickly. I like that I can get it in a video. I like that I can go back and watch it again and see what I missed. Some of them thought it was too much time. Some of them thought it was not enough. It was completely doable. Like just when you ask an open-ended question, you get lots of different opinions. And then what do you think worked well? Being able to, like I said, being able to do it at their own pace. If they understood it already, they didn't have to spend more time on it.
This is the classic issue with this kind of feedback. It's like both sides,
Yeah.
right? It's a great window into how hard it is to teach a cohort of students with really different learning styles and learning needs.
I know, because there was a comment about, I'm so glad I didn't have to go upstairs with the seventh grade to work on it. So when I didn't have to do it over the summer, like I found I know I had to do it, and so. And so, program positives, things that I think worked out well is that we had more equitable learning environments in sixth grade across the grade level. If you walk into a classroom, you could walk into one classroom, walk into another classroom, walk into another classroom. You don't notice a difference where you would before or where you could upstairs. Students have to be a bit more independent. There's slightly more work to get ahead. They're getting more, I'm assigning more practice problems to them than I am to the grade level students, but they're getting it done in about the same amount of time as the grade level students. I really like that any student can try it. Parents can reach out and advocate for it, but it really is the student deciding they want to do it and the student seeing value in it, or the student saying, this is too much for me, I don't feel comfortable with this, I don't really want to do this right now. Students who aren't the other thing I really appreciate is that students who aren't successful, they're not moving from one classroom to another classroom. They're not dropping. I mean, to me, that's a huge hit on your identity to do that. Or they just switch homework assignments. And so it's kind of invisible if they're going through it. And so I like that it kind of preserves their learning ego that way a little So they might be willing to try again later, realizing, oh, I really wish I had done that. I think I can do it. I'm gonna try it again this year.
And some things that we had talked about that would need some work moving forward with this, it's just that us coaches would need some work time to set up the pacing. Michelle did a good start with sixth grade, but we would then need to do this with seventh grade, to order the concepts of what they would be assigned. And then we would need to schedule the time to check in with the kids, which we believe next year would allow us that amount of time to do that. Those students who are strong in math but need a more executive functioning supports, that they would need even further check-ins to make sure that they are staying on track and being successful. And then the demographics of students choosing acceleration, as we mentioned before, to help match those of seventh and eighth grade acceleration classes, not those in our general population. So we want to continue to try and grab more students who would be interested and willing to give this a try.
And so the recommendations that we have would be that we continue the program that we have in sixth grade again next year, with students working on sixth grade math content during the math block and then working on seventh grade homework instead of sixth grade homework. We would recommend that students meet with a coach or a classroom teacher at further down the road perhaps, once weekly for check-ins during the math block. Students are making sure that students are testing on sixth grade concepts with the class and then testing on seventh grade concepts with the coach. And then students with executive function needs might be placed with a coach during their resource period or might be enrolled in an art class if that was something they were interested in.
Art?
So it's academic, what is it?
Resources. Oh, okay.
Academic
Giving them more opportunities to practice and have supported time to do
Got
so.
it.
Can I ask, so are C and F, are those new? Or that has been happening, the once weekly check-ins for C?
So that started about a month ago.
Okay.
Me checking in with students. F is something that did not happen this year. There were a couple of students who were like, you are amazing at math. I think this is really something that would be great for you. And they really weren't interested. And so I'm feeling like if I was able to give them time and support that way, if that would change their mind about being interested in it, because it kind of pains me a little bit to see them not take part of it, but so.
Okay, so C and F are, C is newer, F would be a new, okay, all right.
And then recommendation for seventh grade is that we would move seventh grade acceleration to the Khan Academy homework model that we're doing with sixth grade this year. So that seventh grade content they would learn during the math block, they would then work on eighth grade Khan Academy topics during the homework time, independent time. They would meet again with a coach or classroom teacher once a week for check-ins. They would be tested on seventh grade concepts still in class, and then they would be tested on eighth grade concepts with the coach as they move through those standards on Khan Academy. And then again, offering them with those who need executive functioning needs to accelerate to enroll in art or resource having with a coach.
So the organizational changes, you would just have a seventh grade class as opposed to a seventh grade math class and a seventh grade accelerated. And so it would just be one.
And that's the students who are currently in sixth grade, moving up to seventh grade, so we're not taking anything away, we're maintaining the structure that we had in place for this group of students as they move into seventh grade.
Which was built into your 24 plan, right? This is how we envisioned it, right? Can I ask for E then, the testing on the higher concepts with the math coach? When and how did those happen for kids?
So those are given from our illustrative mathematics curriculum, so they're taking the same tests as their peers who are going through that content in the classroom. And this year, they didn't happen right away because I'm still figuring out structures and all of that. And what I'm for the last few units, what I've been doing is giving them the unit as they finish the content in Khan Academy and have a little time to go back over and practice with the review packet and that. One of the kids suggested having, one of the suggestions from students was having a note sheet that they can fill out as they're going to help them organize that and keep things. And so that's something, and it seems so obvious, I'm like, why wouldn't I have done that? But that would be something that, yeah. So that would be something to include next year ahead of time, now that I know where sixth grade is going and how it's going and what it's going to look like, then I can add those fine tuning.
But when do they test? Like what, is it within that math
It's within
block?
the math block, so I'm meeting with
of
them,
this- okay.
so I meet with them during the time that the classroom teacher is the kids have, in sixth grade, they do practice problems from the lesson before at the beginning of the lesson.
Okay.
And so instead of working on the practice problems that day, they meet with me during that time, so it's built in within their math block.
The math block, that 60-minute math block. Okay.
And then for eighth grade, the recommendation would be that the students currently enrolled in seventh grade accelerated math would then take algebra in the fall. And then those who are already in accelerated will just continue on the prior model of acceleration, as we mentioned. That's in place.
Right, eighth grade will still have the two sections, right?
Algebra and.
So my general question is, taking a broad view, do you feel like it's been successful this first year? Like a successful rollout of this model in sixth grade?
The survey really helped me to feel that I was doing something that students felt was doable and appreciated for the most part, the structure of it. It'll be interesting to see how that looks next year as those students move into eighth grade. I look to make sure that they're doing at least as much as the current seventh grade grade level classes, so that they will be at least as prepared as those students. But it will be interesting to see how that works out next year as they become eighth grade students, working through eighth grade curriculum in the classroom.
Oh, right, so if a sixth grader accelerates through seventh grade, then they're gonna join the eighth graders in the regular eighth grade
Yeah,
class,
so
right?
seventh graders, they'll be
Right.
in eighth grade, yeah.
Got it.
But I feel like the fact that the classes, all the classes are better learning environments, I think that is really important. So I keep checking in with Brian, because Brian, Mr. Wesson, has taught sixth grade in our building. I think this is his third year teaching sixth grade in our building, and then before that, he was a 6, 7, 8 teacher at another district for a number of years, to see what his thoughts are and see what he thinks. And he's a real routine person, and me disrupting his routine was hard for him at first because and so I asked him for his opinion, and he appreciates the class makeup. He appreciates that it's all laid out, that it's he's the one who suggested that I have a certain number of assignments for kids as they go along, rather than open-ended, so that it's real structured for them moving forward. And so he's positive for it as well.
All right,
Wait,
so
no,
I'm gonna start over here.
just check.
Katie, any further thoughts or comments?
I just wanted to make it clear that my child is not one that is 2-year accelerated. Actually, both of my children are 2-year accelerated. So, my 7th grader and my 8th grader, yeah.
And they've worked well with the
Which one of
independent
them?
model, right?
Maela and Marissa, so Marissa as a 7th grader is currently in geometry, and Maela as an 8th grader is in algebra 2. Which they realized because of how Nicolay changed their credit programming, so
Yeah.
have to take college level math to graduate. But they'll appreciate that when they have to pay for college credit, so it's okay.
It's a much better deal.
Chris?
I asked most of my questions already, but I did want to ask, have you had any parents reach out and say, ooh, kids asking me for homework, I don't know how to do this new way?
I haven't had that. I've had one parent say, I am very unhappy that my child is not in the classroom being supported by a teacher daily in the learning. So I had one parent reach out to me with that. Otherwise, I haven't had parents reach out. I've had parents reach out to make sure that their student is doing okay. I haven't had parents reach out and say, I really need more help. You kind of left me high and dry here. What am I supposed to do to support? One thing that I didn't do this year that I can do next year is there are family supports in the illustrative mathematics curriculum. So now I know when we're covering what units over what period of time, I can share those out. So those also have videos, those also have practice problems, those also have explanations in them. But the curriculum itself has the videos and the explanations in it too, but sometimes it's nice to hear a different version.
Thank you. And thank you for all this work. This is amazing.
I think I lost internet for a second, kind of just went down.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really comprehensive presentation and Chris had a lot of good questions and there were a lot of good answers. So
I have a note that says praise. Thank you for tracking this data, being responsive to the, I mean, I just love that you're giving students a voice here. I think that's, so I appreciate that really thorough presentation. I'm looking back just at the 2024 presentation. So thinking about 4th grade and 5th grade, because they're not, I'm kind of missing that piece from, we're focusing on 6th through 8th. So I think when this comes back, you know, I'm sort of curious how those changes or how 4th and 5th grade, how that's factoring into this. I'm also curious about this might be so dumb, staff feedback. It's not just you and Mr. Wesson, right? There's
more staff, right?
Okay,
Because
right.
We've made some of these
Yeah.
changes that.
So,
everybody's in, you know,
okay. So I'm just curious what that feedback would be in terms of, and I'm sure you're seeking it, in terms of the support that they might need to be successful, right? And having these kids stay together in the same class. So yeah, no, I think, and then my other thought or question was just Carla, when she mentioned the peer-to-peer learning, I'm just curious about how, are there opportunities for that now if you have kids who are accelerated and kids who are not, right? Are there opportunities for that in this block where you got the 60 minutes of lessons, some individualized and then individual on the end, and seating charts?
And right.
If necessary.
Yeah, because part of that is I almost need another table in my room for that, and I'm not sure if it'll fit. If I put those kids is a terrible way, but if I put the students who are doing that all at one table, that's not a great thing.
No,
either.
right, I mean,
So, but right, thinking about
mixed.
rearranging at the end of class, people fitting into different groups at the end of class or something.
Well, and I just think about Montessori style, when you have kids who are older, they can bring up, right? And by teaching so just thinking about opportunities for.
everyone together.
Right, so just, yeah, thinking about how you utilize that. But no, I appreciate this so much, so thank you.
What I've found myself thinking about from a broad perspective is, a lot of this is, we're thinking about equity issues and all sorts of things, but also we have limited resources, right? I mean, the fact, I knew it, but I hadn't connected. You're also teaching sections and you're doing coaching. And when I think about you supporting kids and then also supporting double learning for the kids who chose acceleration, I mean, I do worry about basically burnout. I'm worried about whether you can manage it, and but we have all these fiscal restraints. I'm just chewing on it, I'm taking it in, but I love the creative thinking. I mean, it's sort of experimental what you're trying here. I love that you're trying something different, and I finally understand this is I'm realizing this is this, we talked about this yesterday, this is this hybrid post-COVID idea. It's asynchronous learning built into a classroom. Right? I mean, I don't know that we would have thought of it before COVID and some of the different ways we've learned to use technology and asynchronous learning. So, and it's not a new idea to kids anymore. this idea of learning on your own, so I'm impressed that the courage to try something like this. I don't know if there are visitors who want to speak to.
Can I say one more thing? And I also just really appreciate the extra support for kids with executive functioning. I think that's spot on. I love that.
And I wanted to add that, like, I really appreciate that this effort is going into not siloing the kids. Like, even in the classroom, you don't want them all at one table. Everybody benefits from them spreading out. Having my daughters been accelerated, like, they really felt that siloing, and it really limits who they interact with and who their friend groups are, and they didn't like it. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that we're working to get rid of that.
It'll hit them in high school.
Yep.
Yeah, no matter what we do. Are there any visitors who wish to speak to this? Okay, come on up. Yeah, state your name and address, and you can come up if you wish, or take the mic.
Wade Martin, 7275 North Fort Washington Road, Glendale, Wisconsin, 53217, apartment 1221. 2 questions for you. You had mentioned that there were some students that you would like to see taking the advanced courses but are just disinterested. What are you doing to try to incentivize them to try to actually participate in something that'd be meeting what they can do? And then also secondly, I think on one of the slides of the comments, there was a comment saying that they would have preferred like less independent and more like group or with the teacher learning. Do those students that are doing the independent learning Khan Academy have options to have more like hands-on with the teacher or group instructional learning?
So I'm getting fuzzy. What was your first question? I'll answer your second question. I'll ask you what your first question was. So the second question was about them getting access to more teacher support. So a teacher teaching them a concept, really it would be that once a week check-in. It would be what it is. It wouldn't be, and like there was a question that I was sent about if they need more support with 6th grade math, how does that work with them accelerating? Well, if they need more support with 6th grade math, chances are that acceleration isn't really the thing for them. I think there were 3 students who replied saying that they wanted more, they would prefer to be with a classroom teacher. And then we had the student who said, I really appreciate that I can do it independently. And so I'm not really sure about, I mean, I work in small groups with students who need extra support in math, and so a small group with a student working to accelerate. I keep going back and forth with that in my head a little bit, and going back to the resources that we have and how do you use those resources to support all the students that you have. It's always kind of a balance and a back and forth. And what was your first question?
The first question was, you had mentioned that there were a lot of, or at least some students that, could be accelerated, but are just choosing not to. How do you get them interested in taking the advanced courses?
I would love some support with that. We talked with the student, we talked with the family, and part of me is like, are you also allowed to be good at something and to leave it alone if you want to leave it alone? I mean, so I'm not entirely sure. Like advocating with the student, we see this within you. We think you could do amazing things. Reaching out to the family, we see this in your student. We think they could do amazing things. But them saying, I'm a 6th grader. I want to do 6th grade math. I want to not worry about this other stuff. And maybe later down the road, they're like, okay, I'm ready to do this. So I'm not sure. Someone else has it.
Okay, sorry, I've never done this before.
Say your name and address.
Do I need, okay, sorry.
If you want to talk loudly too, you don't.
Okay, and I'm perfectly fine speaking loudly. There you go. Okay, my name is Amy Charbonneau.
Yep. And I live at 2315 West Daphne Road, Glendale. Yeah, so, and I may be the one that she mentioned, that of the parent who's not happy. My son we moved this summer, and my son had been in a school that was tracking every single kid to algebra. So it was a 4K through 8 school. And then I was presented the only option for him was to do this independently. And he had just moved and he was becoming more independent in a lot of things. And he has ADHD and anxiety. And it's just too much. Like, my daughter excelled in independent learning. My son is social, like every single person, every teacher, every time I meet with a parent-teacher conference, they're all like, he is so engaged, he asks so many questions, I have to like, wait, and so independent learning is not really, it doesn't work for him. And I will say that Khan Academy, like, I would sit there next to him. Just Khan Academy in general, if you do a problem, he deals with those executive function things. Like, he wants to, his mindset is get it done. So, and I'm like, get paper out, get a pencil out, slow down, write it down. He's my 4th kid. I have been saying this for years, and I have helped in that 4K through 8th grade school. I'm a para at Nicolay. I have a daughter who's extreme high needs, and I have a daughter who has 4 AP classes. So I've got the full range, right? And it's just, when you get a problem wrong so if you get it right, you get a ding. But if you don't get it right, it's like that, I don't know, I think that it requires a lot of mental fortitude to miss a problem and to keep going back and trying to do it again, right? And like, he was testing very, very well in, everything. Mr. Weston was like, oh, he's tracking, he didn't just do well, he did well at the end of the semester, or the trimester test, like did you retain anything, sort of a thing. So it's disappointing that there's not the opportunity for him to be able to learn in a traditional classroom. And I know that we're saying that, I guess I'm just saying, working at Nicolay and seeing, my daughter, I homeschooled her through 8th grade, and I made sure that she was ready, that she had algebra in 8th grade, because I wanted her to be able to get into geometry her freshman year. She was on that path of geometry freshman year. She's a junior now in pre-calc, and she knows people that are in BC Calc. And it's just like, and then the classes that are available too, it's just, it's a whole, it kind of feels like middle school math kind of locks you in, right? And I certainly appreciate the desire to not have that barrier. I get that more now. I get what you're saying. But I would also bet that, I don't know if more people need more support, but don't have a mom who's done this 4 times and, speaks up and pushes or, goes, anyway. If it's your first kid and you don't necessarily know, or maybe math wasn't your strong suit, those are all reasons that other people might not, opt into that, that independent path. Because I remember it was like, we literally moved the week before school started, we go to open house and I'm told, this is the only option. And I was already asking a lot of my son, being in a new school, a new everything, no friends, all this stuff. And I think that the check-ins and that sort of thing would be good. I think that we tried
he basically didn't start, so then he wasn't kind of like tracking, you know what I'm saying? So like, he didn't understand, he didn't see the value of it in the beginning. So then when he tried to jump in kind of later on, I think it was trickier because it wasn't lining up with what Mr. Weston was teaching and what Khan Academy. And so it just was really hard. So anyway, if I'm supposed to have a question, I guess I would.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. No, that's good. It's really important for us to hear from
Yeah.
families. So thank you.
Thanks.
And thanks for. And did you wish to?
So I'm Ann Ledbetter at 710 West Fairfield Court. I guess not unlike you, I feel that my son would have been one of the 23% who doesn't watch the videos because to be honest, he's a little lazy. And so he tries to do the math without actually having learned the concept and then becomes frustrated when he doesn't get the questions right. And I'm a little sad to hear the accelerated math classes are going away. My older daughter had that and she was not a year ahead, but she was in the accelerated math class and I think it prepared her really well. And the idea of relying on Khan Academy is a little scary to me because I see how my kids interact with screens and they're on screens a lot.
Yeah.
And I think they're more likely to learn when a teacher is in front of them holding them accountable than they are to watch a video that they're never held responsible for actually watching.
I raised that same question of whether there's a paper model, you know, for kids to be able to look at paper. We talked about this yesterday instead of at a screen, because that screen can be really overwhelming for some kids. And we were talking about making sure there were workbooks available in different ways to come at this other than computers. Yes.
Michelle Sorcy, 6525 North Range Line Road, Glendale. I noticed there's a possibility of an 8th grade teacher leaving on the agenda. How are you going to get the next teacher involved? I mean, this seems really good. It seems like a lot of work. Is it going to be overwhelming for this 8th grade teacher coming in and stuff at the start? I'm just curious.
So,
So 8th grade.
Can we,
That's okay. As things change in staffing, part of our goal in staffing, post-referendum is to hold, right, not to add additional staff, right? As we be fiscally responsible, so we have some shifts that will be happening in special education, which will allow us to employ a math teacher at 8th grade and also a middle school math position to help support our coaches and interventionists being able to be more accessible to help support some of this work next year, because we see it as a need, because it was a fiscal move that we made last year to try to supplant some of the positions. We tried to use attrition rather than letting people go last year when we were going through our financial crisis, right? As we have groups of kids shift and our special education needs have shifted, we are able to go down a special education teacher and then employ another math teacher so that we can have those supports. So it's that constant look at like, what do students need within our schools to be able to fit those needs? So in terms of onboarding an 8th grade math teacher, you have an 8th grade math teacher who's going to teach algebra and sections of 8th grade math, right? And so nothing is changing in our 8th grade math programming for next year. So any teacher coming in, we provide all of our teachers who are new to district the support of the math interventionists and coach as well as a mentor to help support them. So, but great question, because yes, changes in personnel make a big difference. We had to shift this last year, right? We had a math teacher leave that we didn't replace, that we helped supplant with coaches, and then, you know, we had another new person in there. So what I could say is a positive is that having our math coaches in our classrooms this year and having those supports in our classrooms, we're seeing some really good gains. So they now have had a good year of experience walking through that curriculum and through this experience to think about how to refine it and make it better.
Okay, anything else? Anyone else? Anyone online?
Can I just ask for elaboration on your point about the Khan and the paper like model? So does that mean you're looking into having like a workbook just as an alternative for a child doing acceleration, or like what is the What are you thinking there?
We still have to discuss that.
Oh,
There
okay,
are- There are
okay.
workbook options
Okay.
that with the illustrative map that we currently have,
Oh,
that we
okay.
could support some of that comp with.
Oh,
So
okay.
we would have to
Okay,
kind of go back in and dig
Okay.
into that a little more. It's not an easy flip flop,
okay,
this or that.
okay, got it.
Sorry, everything.
No, that's what I was trying to, I just wanted to clarify, okay,
It's
thank
the
you.
same concepts.
Okay, right, because they're coming pulling from that. Okay, makes sense.
Okay. Anything else from audience? Thank you for coming, parents.
Mhm.
You are not speaking into a void. I hope you know everyone's listening. I mean, we are very committed as a district to differentiated learning. We're also restricted by resources. So I think it's a dance and I hope you feel, I know these players, I know you are welcome to communicate in, to collaborate, to share, and to figure out a model that works for your kids. So I hope you won't give up. Keep advocating, keep listening.
Is it too late for me to
No,
just
you-
say?
if you wish to say something.
You don't need to give your answers a second.
Okay, thank you. I will just say that I would welcome the supports for the executive functioning in place from day one, along with some paper. Because those kids know how to be on a computer, but not be doing what they're supposed to be doing.
All right,
Thank
thank you. Thanks.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you both for staying late tonight and sharing so much. Happy
Yes,
teacher
oh,
appreciation
yeah.
week.
Oh my goodness, that's a long day.
This is just information. We're not voting on anything here, right? All right, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
For all the hard work.
Thank you.
All right,
Sorry for the long day.
moving on to item 3B, board meeting calendar.
Sorry for the long day.
All right, per policy, the board needs to hold their annual reorganization meeting, which we'll be heading into later this evening. But another part of the board reorganization is solidifying a board meeting calendar for the 25-26 school year. So I would like to propose the outlined dates of board meeting calendars with Wednesdays. And looking at kind of an every other Wednesday. I've had an opportunity to vet the calendar for next year to make sure that this is hitting priority. We can try to work other things around it, so we're not having to move dates. I've built in a couple workshops that I think are gonna be essential, but there may be a few more that we may need to add into that mix, and I would be willing to make those additions tonight or make them as we move through and we see the need arise as well.
Okay, so this is a motion item. Is there a motion before we discuss?
I move to approve the school board meeting calendar as presented and attached to this agenda item.
All right, discussion. We'll start with Chris. Any comments, questions? Karen?
Only just for clarification purposes, Hannah, when you were looking at the dates, you meant that we were missing like important things like concerts and is that what you were saying? You coordinated around that?
Yes, so a lot of those things are still in the works of being scheduled for right now. So basically what I've done is I've put the board meeting calendar dates on there so I can help finesse anything around there. So unless there's something that we're doing in coordination, for example, with Nicolay or another school district, I know we have like some of the partner district music events, we would seek to try to avoid those Wednesday nights then. Perfect. Yeah.
Do we also need to set a time for the meetings, or I don't know if that needs to, I don't know.
Well, yes, we probably should. Thank you for that. I just assumed same time.
That's sort of what I
Yeah.
assumed too, but I didn't know if anybody would have any thoughts about whether the 6 works, whether sometimes we think about equity in terms of timing, and we've talked about could we push it earlier, or I don't think later, but I didn't know if that was worth.
Do people want them earlier? Or
I'm not sure everyone has the flexibility in their.
That's what I just wanted
As long
to
as
confirm.
43 north is under construction, I can't get here by 5:30.
Yeah.
Okay, so 6 is what works. I
Maybe
just
next
wanted-
year.
Yeah. No, I was just curious. Yeah, well, I think about staff, right? If you start earlier, we can, but, yeah, okay.
I'm just gonna pat myself on the back because I went through my calendar and looked at every single day.
Oh, good for you.
And be like, ooh, it looks great. So thank you for
Yeah,
putting
thanks.
this together with absolute clarity, simplicity. Yes, so we've got no further questions. Any questions from visitors? So we are looking at a motion by, I'm supposed to say this for Ed. Motion by Danielle, second by Karn. Motion to approve the school board meeting calendar as presented, with the collection of meetings to begin at 6 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 4A, Human Growth and Development Committee update. That's right, Ann, you're on there. Thank you for your service.
Okay. Well, we're here to give you an update, on our Human Growth and Development Advisory Committee work. So we had a really wonderful team, and Ann is here to, speak with us as part of our team. We had, Chrissy, I put all the committee members' names here, but we had our PE teachers, we had Gus, Laura, EJ, myself, Brianna, Kelly, and Chrissy on the team, and also Ann. We worked, we had 3 meetings, and we did a couple of virtual meetings with Candor, and I included the committee process on here, and then we'll just take a little time to roll through our slide deck. We have that. All right, so thinking about our goals for our committee, we really wanted to learn about what Candor was all about, what did the curriculum look like, and gain a deeper understanding of its content and structure. We also wanted to evaluate the alignment in Wisconsin state statutes. And that's really what our policy is all written around, is the Wisconsin state statutes, just to ensure that it complies with state law. And then our team was going to make those recommendations, whether or not we would continue Candor or make any adjustments to Candor for the following school year. So in our process, we had 3 meetings, and our process was, during our meetings, we reviewed the state law, and we created a rubric to go through the Candor curriculum and determine whether or not it was in alignment with state statute. We also met with Candor to gain that deeper understanding, so we had one of the Candor team come and meet with us virtually, and we were able to have a Q&A. We actually met with them twice because we gathered more questions to continue the conversation with them so we could dig a little deeper. We also looked at the website and the supports that were given within the website. And then as a team, we created surveys for staff and the community. And then we also came up with questions that we could ask students and student focus groups about Candor as well. We reviewed all the feedback as a team and completed the rubric in our final meeting and came up with some determinations. And I thought, do you want to speak a little bit to the process at all, how the team worked together?
Yeah, it was a good process. I think it helped us a lot to hear, I think the survey data was really helpful to know what the kids thought of what they were learning. And also, you know, parents, there weren't that many parents who had strong opinions, which surprised me a little bit. But also the teachers, it was really nice to be in a committee with them and kind of hear their perspectives, because this is a challenging thing to teach.
It was. And I did put in the slide deck, the survey results were in there, so you had access.
Right.
Yeah, they were linked in there. And then also we just summarized it as well as a team, so we synthesized the information from those surveys. So really we thought it was interesting for some of the caregiver surveys. People were noticing that it really didn't share examples of positive healthy relationships, more non-examples.
Oh,
So,
really?
Like, here's what not to do.
Yeah.
Like,
Got
so
it.
not
Got it.
Instead of this is what it could look like, you know, just
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
So that was
That's a
very
great
interesting.
observation.
And not using the term sexual abuse explicitly. So that's something that we wanted in addition to. And then the website, the navigation of the website was easy for people, but yet they wanted more.
Yeah.
So, and that was, as a team, we really felt that was something that we wanted to work on too, is providing more supports for families and more family engagement with that. And also that local resources being able to have some local resources that people could easily link to depending on the topic. And we'll get to that a little bit with recommendations. On the staff survey, I wasn't really surprised that it was very difficult during roller testing. That was really not helpful. So it was a very stressful week on everyone in the building.
Can we shift that?
On everyone. So the suggestion is to have it at the beginning of the year, which makes the most sense anyways,
Yeah.
because kids probably need this right away, you know, so that we're not getting it toward the end of the year when everything's already done, you know. So that was the big thing with staff. And just even the comfort level, but a lot of the staff did not really feel comfortable teaching some of these topics within their classrooms. So that wasn't surprising to me either. And then the student focus groups, some interesting things came out of that. Students really wanted to focus more on inclusivity, but also wanted to be separated.
Right.
So that was very interesting. And then, of course, with the tech, you know, some of the kids were fooling around with the chat features and stuff like that. So we just need to have a lockdown on some of those types of things. And just shorter sessions and then more wraparound support. So, and we saw that as a trend and a need. So when we think about our recommendations.
You mean with the wanting the social SEL wraparound?
I mean,
Yeah.
even being able to go to people and having like small groups or split up by topic. I wanna learn more about this.
Got it.
That I can go and to this group.
Because
this
it's
topic.
online right now. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
online.
presenter through a screen,
Yeah.
teaching them, and
Yeah.
then you have to manage chat and questions and things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's no like.
But a lot of them liked it that way too.
Right.
Because it's not, you know, with everyone
Right, it's
having those
distance.
discussions. It's
Less
yeah.
embarrassing, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
So
more
they-
able to ask questions.
Yeah, so I did include the rubric that we filled out in there. So there's a complete copy of it, but overall, we felt that it meets expectations. So we found that it is evidence of effectiveness. But we also felt as a team that we needed to have candor plus. Is what we came up with as a team. So when we look at our recommendations, we talked about creating a team. And all of us wanted to continue this work and stay together and then start working on a comprehensive list of local resources that we could start putting in like a website and also different supports for students. So we wanted a family list and then also for students, so they would even have that in their Google Classroom. So if they needed to look something up, like vetted supports, instead of Googling. So they would have a list of resources that they could go to based on specific topics that are age appropriate, right? So they would have that right in their Google Classroom. We also talked about that wraparound supports. So the PE team was gonna do some work around creating topics for the month based on the grade level and what standards are being broken out and standards that are being taught. They already started some of that work and mapping out what that could look like for the year. So we're in process of doing it. So just really looking at in September, so they're gonna focus on certain things in September based on the grade level. And then we're gonna layer in some of those supports during the day. The small groups can be meeting and then creating some lessons that teachers can do possibly on some of those wellness Wednesdays, like once a month, to layer in some of those supports for students. So we're kind of working on those short little mini lessons throughout the year to give to students, so that we're not just doing one, you know, one and done.
Right.
So that's
Roll out the boomer technology. Remember a couple years ago, we had to roll out the VHS machine to try to
I went
watch the
out to watch the videos.
So then we were gonna work on that, and then in the beginning of the school year, we'll just review this all as a team and kind of push through it, and continue our work on that. So that's kind of where we're sitting, is with a Candor Plus option right now. And then we will review next year, we'll have the Human Growth and Development Curriculum Review with the partner districts. So we'll be looking at kindergarten through 12th grade, human growth and development with Foxwood, Bayside, Mapleville, Indian Hill, and Nicolay. And that'll be a bigger team, which will help us create new, possibly new curriculum, sure, maybe picking, depending on what we all land on. So we'll have vertical alignment of all those standards. The health standards were supposed to come out in April. They are now not coming out till October. So we have a draft of the standards, but in October they'll come out, and then in November we'll start that curriculum review process with the partner districts. And that'll be in alignment with the science standards that will also be doing science curriculum, because things kind of layer in together. So that way we can decide, like, does this land in science, you know, we're teaching about embryos, or, you know, where does everything live, right? Right. So we thought that would be a nice work together for those two teams. Nan's gonna show us. Did you want to share anything else about
Well,
work together?
in regards to the community resources, I think one other thing we discussed was that we may have community members among us that are willing and able to talk to kids about some of these topics. I thought the gym teachers were amazingly adapted to this work. You know, I think it can be a little hard to be sort of a middle school gym teacher and you're roped into teaching a bunch of immature kids about, you know, it's awkward. And so we talked about how, like, in our group, there were a few nurses, I'm a midwife, there was a public health expert, and I think we were all willing, to a certain extent, to, you know, come in and teach some, you know, a subject that we might be an expert on in a way that could help the gym teachers. So I think that's also what we mean by Candor Plus, is like, we just want to leverage community resources, and we have a lot in our. I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, so she did have that in, I don't have her whole thing, but she did have that, like, having presenters come in and utilizing, you know, the people that we have within our community. Just like North Shore Health Department, the fire department, local nutritionists, counselors, you know, so we're hitting all different things, not just you.
Okay, Carm, any questions or comments?
This was great, thank you. I was just wondering, when the kids said the scenarios were unrelatable, I could imagine a situation where that would be the truth regardless of the curriculum, right? Was there a way to provide feedback to Candor, or is there?
I did, I shared
Okay.
the student forums
Yeah,
with them.
because that's key, and I would wonder then if perhaps we also need to work on generating some more relatable pieces. That being said, they're middle schoolers, and I think this in general is just like,
It's uncomfortable.
it's uncomfortable, so.
I know my kids specifically came home and complained that there wasn't enough LGBTQ representation in the programming. And they felt really strongly that was absolutely unacceptable, so that's probably your more inclusivity, but separate rooms situation.
Okay, Danielle?
So you touched on it, I was hoping you could identify the community roles for the committee members. You don't have to do it now, but maybe the next time it comes back, just to see, because I know the statute, we should have. But it sounds like you covered staff, medical, parents, did you try? Okay. And then, okay, Candor Plus, is Candor like, are they flexible in their curriculum, or are you looking at, you would present Candor on one day and the Plus is just everything we do to break it up and bring it out throughout the year?
Yeah.
Okay, so Candor is what it is, their lessons are likely not going to change, we're just gonna have to, okay, that's
And this
what
is our recommendation for continuing for next year.
Right,
As we
right.
go through that curriculum review process.
Yeah.
We don't know where we'll land,
yeah.
you know, there might be something else.
Something better than Candor.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanna echo the frustration as a parent with the website, for sure. It's like, you wanna go there and it's like they're trying to give you information, but you just like can't get past that surface level to be like, what are they really learning? Or what are they gonna talk about? And how could I support that at home? So I'm glad that was feedback you guys were taking. sort of a facetious suggestion, but not really, the plus, like maybe if you copyright it, we sell it to other districts who are in need of. Yeah, I'm just thinking about money generating ideas, cause it sounds like the plus, not the candor, just the plus, you know, any curriculum, but Glendale-River Hills adds that plus factor, it's just a thought.
Yeah, right.
No, but it's good, it's really good. My other question is, so cover in the required and recommended subjects, the notable omissions, was that the sexual abuse language, or were there other notable omissions?
That was,
In that,
that was.
it was
that
that language
was
particularly? Okay.
You're looking at category 3.
Category 3, right, the required and recommended subjects. Okay, and then my last question, so I did not see the link to the surveys, so thank you for pointing that out, but it was 5 caregivers?
Yeah.
Okay, how did it go out? Was it like a Thursday folder, or did you select?
Thursday folder.
Okay.
I
I wasn't one of them, so there you go. 11 staff,
Very disappointed.
and then I can't
I
access.
did an IC class and a Thursday.
I believe you, and I'm
To be
so sorry.
transparent, I don't think I did.
I'm
either.
sorry that I didn't, but somebody had my feedback, so we're covered. No, but that's, okay. So,
Sometimes,
no, well, and I think maybe it's like, it's awkward for a lot of people, so families are like, do you take it? Maybe, but I can't access the student focus group comments, which is maybe my GDRH can't, but how many students did you get feedback from?
oh, you can't because.
Is it
it's typed up.
Oh,
It's typed up because they
That was
did,
it.
they did focus groups.
oh,
we
okay,
didn't
so
do
that's,
surveys.
okay,
of
just
students,
check, right.
We did focus groups.
Okay, so that was okay,
So every grade level had a different focus group.
okay,
So I'll
awesome.
put that in.
No, I was just curious, so, I'll take the survey. Thank you for doing this, this is a really nice, I know when Jenica puts together a committee, because it's just like her stamp is all over it. About process and present, it's really great.
We had such,
It's
I enjoyed working
Yeah,
so
you-
much with this
you can-
team and just the ideas that came out of it
Yeah.
and the work that everyone did. I
Yeah,
think we're
you
really
can
gonna
see.
move in a really good direction and a lot of supports and great ideas, so
Thank you.
thank you.
Is, are all our partner schools using Candor?
No,
I think it's just us. Okay.
Some are doing their own lessons and some have a textbook.
Okay, so we're gonna do Candor, we're gonna stay with it for another year, do the plus, see how it works, that's the plan, okay. I would like to hear a little more about rubric 4, which, inclusivity and non-discrimination. I'm curious what aspects, other than the LGBTQ stuff, which I would have anticipated in a standard package, were there other aspects of the Candor stuff that,
That's where we landed pretty hard with that.
on many
On the team.
intersections, or,
We felt that that was a piece that was missing.
okay.
Okay.
So,
But we
what-
did not give it a 4 that it currently didn't.
so on what intersections did you see bias and,
We couldn't see all of the curriculum, but some of their premise was that they wouldn't go too deep within any of that.
I see, so it's baked in, they're just like, we're not gonna.
Yeah.
We're not gonna go there, okay.
Answering questions and stuff like that, talk to a, safe
Got it.
person or,
Right, because they sort of avoid quote unquote controversial
Correct.
topics.
Correct.
While trying to be scientifically accurate and as inclusive as you can be while avoiding,
The very act of, of course, it's a tautology, by calling
Controversial.
it controversial, you create
Well, we used
controversy,
to,
it's only
and we're
controversial
used to
because
it.
we call it controversial,
Exactly.
yeah,
So that's
which is
why.
irritating.
No, we did not get that.
Yeah,
Right.
good. I love the idea of leveraging community resources, as you know, I just love the idea of parents and community leaders and people like you coming in and teaching. So my last question that I had, I was really sitting here thinking about your participation. I'm curious to hear your reaction, your views on what it's been like to participate in a committee on this, like this, whether you feel like it's been positive for you, what challenges you face, do you feel like you've added value, like your sense of what this has been like.
Yeah, good question. I really enjoyed it. I've never done anything like this before. But I think that, having the experience of being a nurse midwife, and I work with patients of all ages, including teens, and it's really clear to me that really important
lessons about their anatomy, their sexuality were not taught to them. And so I think it's really cool that, you know, we have a program that starts really early with really honest, open language. And I do feel like it could be enhanced, like, and like I would volunteer to do this myself. I think that, you know, it might be less awkward for me I talk about pregnancy and childbirth and sex, you know, with
Right.
patients. And so I have sort of experience doing that in a way that I think I could present to 8th graders or,
Yeah.
you know, and so I think that, you know, I'm just one example. There were other people on our committee who know a ton about STDs, who, you know, are really experienced with puberty and growth and development. So I think we should use those resources. Like I said, I think, you know, it's a lot to ask of a gym teacher who
Right.
perhaps like that wasn't why they became a gym teacher.
And
because
has
they
to come back the
were
next
hoping
day,
to-
whereas you can dip in and out,
Yeah.
and they don't have to
Yeah.
look at you and say good morning the next day.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's good modeling though too, so if we bring people in to model being that comfortable and open, it's gonna help our staff grow too, who might not be as comfortable now, just like witnessing somebody who is.
And also it grows our student body's understanding of different professions.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
a profound impact.
Yeah, it's like
We do
a
have
soft
presenters
introduction.
coming in
Yeah.
for all different things,
Right,
right? So
right.
why not?
Yeah. I love it.
I think it builds on the developmental mindset too, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for volunteering and giving us your time. I know it's a big ask and I appreciate it.
It was fun. I
And
enjoyed it.
the resources that we have from this team, is so much.
Yeah.
Okay, Katie, rounding to you. Any comments or thoughts?
I already said, okay.
And Chris?
Just an amazing process. Like, I'm grateful for all the volunteers, but also for all the structure, and you did what could have been a very simple thing, and you did it the right way.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Yay.
Yeah, it could have been just a rubber stamp to, you know,
And that's the way I was looking for.
yeah,
Thank you.
to say that we did it, but you guys actually did the job, which is lovely.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Unless there is opposition, I would like to, or concern, I would like to take a 5-minute break now. We're going for a minute and a half, and then we'll come back to the board reorg stuff. We don't have to move it if no one is opposed to it. 5 minutes, good?
One good drink to keep.
I'm so ready to go, I forget that.
Having to talk while I'm trying not to. Is allergies plus a kind of do cough, it's kind of worried that we're going away, so the allergies. Yeah.
We
live?
Are we emotionally back? Yes, we're back.
Physically.
All right, we are back in session, both intellectually and physically, and we are now moving on to section 5 of our agenda, which effectively is our board reorganization meeting required by our policy. So, here we go. Item 5A, board officer role.
Okay, I would like to motion to approve a slate of officers as the following: President Carla Pennington Cross, Vice President Danielle Bailey, Treasurer Karen Cronwell, Clerk Chris Robinson, Assistant Clerk Katie Avalos.
Second.
Any discussion? All participants are willing?
I think that it's really key to develop capacity. And so repeating years, it makes sense in these roles, right? You learn a lot. Like, I learned so much.
And we want you to keep applying that expertise.
Right?
In, you know, in each of the roles that we fill, so. Okay. Motion by Danielle Bailey, second by Karen Cronwell on the slate for board officers, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to 5B, approval of depositories.
Do you want me to just motion? I move to approve US Bank and Wisconsin Investment Series Co-op, WISC, through PMA Financial Solutions as the depositories for school funds.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Anna or Michelle?
I'm sorry, could you name those again?
US Bank and WISC, Wisconsin Investment Series Co-op. Yeah, through PMA.
Okay, sorry, I didn't understand that part.
Do it again.
Karen.
Katie.
Oh, Katie, right, sorry. And Michelle, is there anything that we need to know about these? There's no changes, this is a continuation of
Says
existing.
continuation, that's correct.
Any questions or comments? Okay, there is a motion to approve the named depositories for school funds with a motion by Danielle Bailey and a second by Katie Avalos. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to 5C. There are 2 recommended motions. I propose we go one at a time.
Sure. I move to designate Michelle Brown to assume responsibilities of the treasurer.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
All right, so motion by Karen Cronwell, second by Chris Robinson to designate Michelle Brown to assume the responsibilities of treasurer for our policy and statutory requirements, right?
Yes.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And the last motion here,
I move to designate Diana Knight to assume the responsibilities of the clerk and the secretary.
A second.
all right, and again, this is per our policy and statutory obligations, and it allows Diana and Michelle to do like the responsibilities that we as board members don't actually do, right? Because they actually have knowledge and expertise that we don't have. All right, there is a motion by Karen Cronwell, second by Danielle Bailey to designate Diana Knight, who is wonderful, to assume the responsibilities of clerk and secretary. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries. Okay. Oh, my motion log can't keep, my hand can't keep up with this. All right. We are officially reorganized. We've done it. We did that really fast. Ah, yes.
Do we have to do organizational liaisons also, or no?
Oh, I
so
forgot
it's
about
CC.
that.
Yeah.
Next meeting.
We could do that at the next meeting.
Okay.
I think until then we carry on, and are we carrying on in our continuing same roles?
I don't know.
Are we imagining? Let's do it at the next meeting.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
try. It seems like it's a good thing to delay.
You know, I remembered it, I forgot it, I remembered it, I forgot it.
Same.
I can picture myself going through this during the past month, like, oh, I should remember that.
Yep.
Immediately forget.
Do you want separate motions for the next section or?
Well, we're on to legislative updates
Oh, sorry.
and resolutions. So, we actually have 4 resolutions that are attached. I see that the educator appreciation isn't listed in recommended action. Can we adopt it anyway because it's listed under public content?
Yes. It's also.
It says the board will take action on the following resolutions and it includes, but it's not in
It's
the
okay.
recommended action. So I think we can still do it, right? Okay, so, let's start with 1, Asian American and Pacific Islander Month, which is the first one in this list. And you all have these now, right? And that one I updated, so I will make the motion to adopt the resolution in recognition of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, May 2025.
Second.
Any discussion, any questions or proposed edits? This is an update on the resolution from last year. Native Hawaiian is new language that's included now. People are using that now. No, it was AAPI, but as of this year, people are saying Native Hawaiian as well. So I continue to think these resolutions are important, especially as this stuff is pulled down from federal websites and is pulled out of federal funding. The very least we can do is continue to acknowledge the existence of people who are diverse and not pretend we don't exist, so, right, so.
I was happy to see Ms. Dassau is highlighting AAPI month in the library over here, which is great.
Wonderful. All right, so I motioned, I can't remember who seconded.
I did.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
All right, so motion by Carla, second by Danielle to adopt the resolution in recognition of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Heritage Month, May 2025. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Second in this agenda is the Jewish Heritage Month Board Resolution.
I will move to approve the resolution in support of Jewish American Heritage Month, May 2025.
Second.
Any discussion?
I think you said it already. I think we continue to honor people by acknowledging their existence. We know that our district is working to continue to be inclusive of all of the, our diverse populations, Jewish Americans being a big one, one of them. So, yeah.
All right. Okay, motion by Danielle, second by Karen Cronwell to adopt the resolution in support of Jewish American Heritage Month, May 2025. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, third, motion carries. Third is the resolution in recognition of Mental Health Awareness Month, May 2025. I drafted and updated this one, so Carla Pennington Cross, move to adopt the resolution in recognition of Mental Health Awareness Month, May 2025.
Second.
Okay, I updated this a little bit to add reference to funding challenges. So I don't know if y'all noticed that, I added paragraph 11 about how we're constrained in our ability to serve students' needs and teacher needs, staff needs, by limited revenues, and now, $1 billion lost at the federal level for mental health supports in public schools. I admit I'm filled with a rage around it. So I also added at the end of our, what our commitments are, that we would commit to continued advocacy to support adequate funding for public schools, and to improve reimbursement rates for mental health and special ed support. So that's the changes I made for this year. The data still sucks. Our kids are still suffering. This is not a time for losing sight of this. So, all right, okay, motion by Carla, second by Chris, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Fourth, this is the Educator Appreciation Week resolution, which Chris drafted.
All right, so I will move to accept this.
I'll second.
Okay, and we just wanted a way to both appreciate all of our educators for all they're doing and to call attention to everything our district was doing in terms of differentiation and science-based strategies and caring for students and devoting time to those special memories that are created from outside of class time. So we are all really proud of our educators and grateful, and so we'd like to pass this resolution.
Outstanding. Anyone else? Thank you so much for thinking of this, Chris, and for drafting it. Appreciate that. All right, there is a motion by Chris with a second by Katie to adopt the resolution in recognition of Educator Appreciation Week, May 2025. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, excellent.
Can we pause for just a second?
Yes.
So I am remembering that we had a conversation a few months ago about trying to transition into a space where students would also be involved in these, and I'm just wondering if that's something that we can, because I've noticed we're not doing that.
Like drafting them or having, or what?
Yeah, the conversation was that they would
Yeah.
be involved in this process, and that it would make it actually more, like
Right.
truly meaningful work that was interspersed throughout our student body.
I wonder if a student rep is, if that's like partially a connector to.
Yeah, I think it would just be good, I think maybe for us to like brainstorm with staff maybe about how to make that happen, so that it's like
I think what's happened this year, including with the ambassador, is that the avalanche of work
Okay.
that's happened this year has made it hard to turn to the fun stuff like that. Yeah. I don't know, what are your thoughts, Anna, about eventually making that something that can be part of student work or shared with students?
Yeah, I think there's a great possibility to talk with them about, like, share the premise around what a resolution is, and maybe we look at some of our older learners or those students who are looking for leadership opportunities to have that conversation around what the board has currently done and what they feel like needs to be upheld, and maybe what needs to be added to that in terms of making sure that we're honoring work that is reflective of their needs and interests as well.
Yeah.
And it'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
I think if we're looking at doing something like that, I think we taught some of our leadership groups that exist already within our school community to help support that work.
Thank you, Karin.
And I'd love to see the input on how these, the resolutions we make around these items, like how they're feeling them in their, like, in the school too, like, you know, like we used to ask administration, tell us what you're doing to, like, you know, showcase these things or whatever. It could be interesting to just kind of hear how they, like, get their feedback on how these things are not just are presented or present or not present in their day-to-day, regardless of the month. But yeah. Right.
Absolutely. I think I feel like there's growing confidence in me that these resolutions are more like expressions of what exists and is being done, rather than pushes. When we first started doing them, they were pushes, right? Like, we really wanna see this happening and we're not sure it is. And I feel like my mindset has shifted. This is more like celebration and reaffirmation. So I know, I find myself not worrying so much. I mean, I'm just sitting here reflecting, like, I'm sitting here thinking, like, you're right. We used to, like, almost demand, like, we've gotta hear what's happening. But now you're like walking around saying, Taylor's already, she's got this in the life, you know what I mean? So I'm realizing without realizing, I've had a mind shift around this. So I appreciate that push, because we should be trying to find ways to have students engaged and involved in this storytelling, and this story that we're building about who we are. It's the time, gosh, you know.
I know.
Yeah, but I also feel like in the past, when you guys started doing these, that it wasn't a given that every member of the board was gonna be on board.
That's
and that would have been really toxic to bring students into. So I feel like we're in a safer environment to have students bring their work, and they're not gonna get slapped for it.
That's interesting.
Metaphorically.
Metaphorically.
That's right.
Hopefully not.
Okay, so those are done. Then the legislative aspect of this, because this is our legislative update thing. I want to raise three issues that are, two issues that are heavy on my mind right now. One is, Karin, I don't know if you want to speak to it. Karin brought to our attention that the North Shore Library funding is coming before the Common Council, right?
Yes.
So that is a potential advocacy opportunity. I don't know where any of our positions are, but if the city of Glendale is gonna be asked to fund some of that new North Shore Library, which we believed we were not going to be paying for, then that's gonna impact property taxes, and that's gonna impact us as we go back to referendum in a year, right? So something, I just wanna run up the flagpole that it's all, life is a seamless web, and so are property taxes. So something to think about, an opportunity for advocacy if you wish to speak to that and bring attention, highlight attention around school district needs. Similarly, Karin brought to our attention that there are some planning commission issues floating. Danielle and I and Anna went to a planning, pardon me?
And Kelly?
Oh, right, and Kelly was there, went to a planning commission meeting yesterday. They are considering approving a voucher school, a private school that will be taking special needs vouchers. And so this is starting this conversation that I think we need to start educating ourselves on and thinking about in terms of the advocacy, because each new private school that takes vouchers that comes into our community is effectively increasing property tax rates for us and increasingly drawing money out of our public schools. So they will take their money no matter what, And if we need more, we have to go ask voters to vote on it, local voters. And so there are a number of issues here where we can, I think, develop some advocacy ideas. A lot of it is already baked into our resolution, but we can be advocating at the city council level. And more importantly, I think, because we're still only in May, we still have 2 months, we can watch how this pans out. And these are opportunities to like take these little stories and hit at the Joint Finance Committee. Like if this private school is approved, it's an opportunity for each of us to email the Joint Finance Committee again. Here's another copy of our resolution, and here's another hit our local community is going to take. We anticipate even more lost revenue, you know, and just sort of use these opportunities to hassle our legislators.
Yeah, and this particular proposal is unique in that it is only special education.
Right.
And so then the onus on the district that it comes into is very specific.
And greater.
And it's bigger. And so I think educating people around that is important. The plan commission, of course, is limited in their scope of what they consider, so it's really the common council, I think, that we need to educate a lot.
So can I clarify, so the school is going to be approved because the city does not believe that legally they can deny the application based on statute, and they've talked to their legal counsel. However, they delayed the vote at the last meeting and invited Anna to come and talk about the impact, and they have questions for the business owners. So that meeting, I believe, might be June 3rd.
Yeah, right.
I don't know that you will, I don't believe legally you will sway the commission or the city. I also learned that the commission itself, actually going to the commission to approve these kinds of permits is just sort of like a formality, and that it's not necessary. It's just something they've done because they've always done it. And that really it could just go to the city administrator. It does not go to the common council.
Oh, really?
So on June 3rd, if the business is there, the questions are asked and Anna presents, the city believes it has no choice but to approve this school. So I think that there is still the court of public opinion in terms of having a month and if a business wants to come into a community that might not really want it there, that's one potential avenue for advocacy. I think the other area for advocacy might just be forward thinking about zoning and advocating with our city around zoning and what properties remain designated as S1, what properties remain, this is not an S1, a designation for institutions, so public institutions or schools. This actually is not one of them. It's one that lacks a develop. Anyway, long story, but
it was previously used, so it's like existing usage.
It's PD zoning, so right, and then it's based on prior use, and that's just based on case law. So again, there might be some wiggle room, but the city doesn't. So I think there's education all around in terms of the impact, so that we can be forward thinking about what spaces remain and how we look forward.
And
into those
also
areas.
an issue that you've raised before, which is transparency on the tax document,
Yes.
right? So I think
Yes.
I would love to be able to have to notice a potential quorum for that June 3rd meeting.
Yeah.
Right, and then begin that story, because I don't wanna end up, looking forward, I don't wanna have to be sitting here trying to explain that it's not the school board's fault.
Yeah.
That there are a rising number of private schools suctioning money from our budget. We have no control over that.
Right.
That's on the city. And
Well,
they
to
may have.
the degree they have
To the degree
control.
they have control,
They don't have
but-
control, exactly.
But it's truly, it's even more out of our control. We
Yeah.
have literally no say in that, but we do have the power to show up, and we represent voters
And
and,
engage and educate, right?
yeah, and educate and get people thinking about it, so, just something to keep on the radar.
Yeah.
And, that's it, so
Yeah.
I think I will, if I do come up with, like annoying emails to send to the Joint Finance Committee, I'll be sure to share, and we can all just keep poking them and asking for better reimbursement rates.
I believe there's a first vote tomorrow. On
For preliminary,
Okay.
yeah. But I think there's still,
Right.
there's still room to keep making noise. All right, anything else on legislative updates, advocacy opportunities?
Oh, can I just add, at the planning commission, the city is overdue for doing its corp planning, which is
Right.
community outdoor recreational plan. has to be up to date or in the process of being updated so they can apply for like federal grants to like improve green spaces and park spaces and rec spaces. So they have to have a comprehensive plan. So they're in the project, they're in the, they are seeking, they're going to be seeking stakeholder like feedback on what do residents want to see Valesio in terms of our outdoor spaces. So I also think that's an opportunity for advocacy because, I mean, our schools primarily offer a lot of that acreage that they're outlining, and they want to look to perhaps partner with schools, right? Because they can't tell, but so there's opportunity there in terms of thinking about how our spaces could be improved upon in partnership with the city, and just thinking about, as you mentioned, sort of that development asset profile, right? Some of the deficits we see it is in extracurricular, outside of school time activity, community for our students. So again, thinking about how do we advocate for our students in that larger community space. So that's, so, yep, so that is something where they're gonna be engaging, but also we can just reach out at any time to the people kind of working on that too, to offer our thoughts, so. That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Anything else? On to item 5E.
Excuse me, Carla.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Mr. Martin.
Just wanted to make a few comments and feel free to ignore these as you see fit. For student participation in the, say, monthly resolutions, something to potentially do is in a Thursday folder, month prior, send out something, hey, this is the month we're currently in and celebrating and making people aware of it. Next month is this, if you are potentially interested in talking to the board about your experience as
Oh, that's a nice idea.
that, feel free to reach out and contact someone.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a great idea.
I think we have families who used to come in to do some of the like awareness around around their culture, community that might be related to the month too. So yeah, just like nudging them again.
And then also, more so for the parents, like in the start of the year, parents, yearly thing, make them aware that Thursday folders are online, since not all students will bring back full Thursday folder, conveniently forget it. And then for the legislative update part, something that would be, in my mind, easy for a lot of people to take a look at is how much money that's levied by the district actually goes and stays in the district, and then say how much per private school goes out and how much that is per pupil, since like with the referendum, how much that was going to go up by assessed value. There's maybe half a dozen people that understood it before Michelle put in the work to describe how that works, and substantial amount of people will not do the work on their own to understand it, and they just want to complain. And if you can put the complaints towards the private schools rather than the public schools, that would be a little bit of a load off your back.
On the state. But yes.
A good few places. And then for the parks update, just as a heads up, even if you do get something listed on there, they might not do any follow-up on it. Like the one thing they wanted to do for Clutch Park in the 2018 plan was put a dog park in there. That's the one thing they said they wanted to do there, and no dog park, so.
Well, to
If
be
you do
fair, Clutch Park doesn't, it's a county park, so
yeah.
they probably didn't have purview over that.
It might not be a technical dog park. There are a lot of loose dogs at Clutch Park.
Just a heads up, even if you do get them to agree to something, you'll need to keep pushing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Martin. I'm sorry I didn't look to my right. All right, moving on to personnel updates, item 5E. We have 5 resignations and retirements, and I'm thinking, could you take us one at a time?
Sure.
And then we'll vote on them one at a time to keep it clean. Does that work?
Sure. The first resignation is for a Glen Hills special education teacher at the 6th grade.
Need to say names.
I think we need to say names.
Oh, yeah, I can do that. So it'll be, Katie Beck will be, resigning at the end of this school year.
Okay, so is there a motion?
I move to approve the resignation of Glen Hill special education teacher Katie Beck.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, motion by Daniel Bailey, second by Karen Cronwell to approve the resignation of Glen Hill sped teacher Katie Beck. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
Best wishes.
yeah,
Your endeavors.
all right, next.
The next is a motion to approve the resignation of Glen Hills school counselor Carrie Gleba.
And she is leaving for family needs, right? She's,
No.
Then she's moving on to.
She's in
oh, okay, she's leaving.
Carrie has an opportunity to take on a very important role at the Indian Community School and to better serve her community that she is a part of. So we're really proud of her accomplishments there, and it's a really great opportunity, and we will miss her dearly.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Ms. Beck will be moving on to motherhood, and we wish her the best. as well.
Okay. Wonderful, okay. Do we have a motion already?
I move to approve the resignation of Carrie Gleba, counselor. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I am sadness. All right, number 3.
The next is motion to approve the resignation of Glen Hills 8th grade math teacher, Rhiannon Tice.
I move to approve the resignation of Glen Hill's 8th grade math teacher Leon Tice.
Second.
Anything special we need to know? Just again, sadness. All sadness in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right, motion carries. Number 4.
Motion to approve the retirement of 4th grade teacher Kim McLean.
Oh, wow. All right.
I'll move to approve the resignation of 4th grade teacher Kim McLean.
Retirement.
Yes.
Second.
Wow, Ms. McLean has been with us for a long time. That's
She's the 4th grade teacher.
how many years has she taught here?
Going off the top of my head right now.
Many years.
And we at least 10.
At least 10, and
Yeah.
she's done a lot of innovative work, well.
I'm so glad Hari has her right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Lucky kid.
I hope she enjoys retirement for real, and gets to look after herself. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Motion carries, and finally, we've got a Parkway Hero.
So just to denote to the board, paraprofessional resignations or support staff resignations or retirements would be accepted by the superintendent, but I do, in full transparency, want to just bring them forward to the board. So motion to approve the retirement of Parkway paraprofessional, Carrie Christensen, who has been a longtime paraprofessional and has served our district for many, many years at Parkway Elementary.
All right, anybody want to make that motion?
I move to accept the retirement of Carrie Christensen, sorry. A Parkway, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, parents Christian, all Christian, I was reading it.
Christian,
Okay,
oh,
yeah, I move
sorry.
to approve the retirement of Parkway paraprofessional.
Ms. Christian.
Thank you, Ms. Christian. Apologies.
Second.
Chris seconds. All right. Oh, this is a hard time of year. This always happens, right? Some people leave. It's always sad. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you for your service.
Best wishes for all of them.
Yeah. Thank you for serving our kids. All right, moving on to item 6A, summer maintenance.
All right, so I do want to just cover some of the components here. Kevin Conkle is not able to be with us tonight as he is tending to his dog who needed vet care, so keep our fingers crossed for his mom. All right, so the report really outlines the scope of the work and the maintenance that's going to be performed by the custodial staff during the summer months to prepare both Parkway and Glen Hills to welcome the staff and students. In the classroom spaces, you see a long list and just kind of informing the board of all of the intensive work that needs to occur during that time. Typically, our summer crew consists of our head custodians as well as our custodial staff who works second shift throughout the school year. In addition to that, we do bring on summer help and workers. Some of them teachers in our district, sometimes we'll do other hires outside of our district to help support that work. So classrooms kind of get a top to bottom overhaul of cleaning needs, such as trash and recycling bins are clean, windows are clean, carpet is clean, furniture is all moved out of the spaces. And so we do that deep cleaning. In our restrooms, all of the walls, floors, surfaces are treated and scrubbed down over the course of the summer. At Glen Hills, this will take place after the summer school, so they're on a tight schedule for a very large building, so it's a pretty intensive lift. Supplies are refinished, fixtures and mirrors are polished, and then they work through any repairs that also need to take place during that time. In all of our hallways, entryways, lockers, and vestibules are cleaned. Every locker is opened, emptied, vacuumed, and washed, which is a big task and an interesting one, I'm sure, after students leave for the summer. Our tiled areas are all cleaned. Hallway carpet is vacuumed and cleaned. Our gym floors are going to be refinished, waxed, and polished by outside contractors. And then Glen Hills will also have the paint on the gym floor redone this summer to freshen it up, because after a certain amount of wear and tear, it starts to not look as nice, and so we will have that done this summer as well. Outdoor windows at Parkway will be cleaned down, screens removed, windows sprayed, scrubbed and dried. Locker rooms at Glen Hills will also have the opportunity to have all the showers and shower heads cleaned with disinfectant. Walls, floors, and ledges scrubbed, hosed down and dried, and the restrooms are cleaned following the restroom protocol. Our pool, we will be installing a new pool cover motors to support pool cover operations. We experienced some issues last summer with the pool cover not being able to close fully, which caused humidity in the basement level, which impacted our instruments in our music program because, and so humidity and instruments don't like each other. So we're gonna work on keeping that humidity in the pool with functional pool covers this summer. So they're working on those pieces right now. All of the options around accessibility for our pool deck is being considered. So we're looking at, we have a lift that's operational at Glen Hills for getting students from the entrance to the pool deck safely in any sort of wheelchair. So we were looking at pricing out options on that. So that will be another larger cost that we'll be looking at examining how to kind of make sure that we can get our students to that pool area. We also have a Hoyer lift in that pool area that also is not operational right now, that will need to be repaired.
That's the lift that gets the person
Yeah, from
into
the deck
water.
to the pool.
Got
it. Yep. And so we really have a lot of work that needs to be done around the pool area in order to create accessible spaces for students, which is going to incur some costs this summer in that area. Our kitchen and cafeteria, we had some major repairs to our overhead hood last year that were unexpected. So this year we'll be doing just our basic cleaning and making sure that those HVAC filters are all replaced so we can keep that hood operational. Roofs, the drains on the roof will be unclogged and debris will be removed, and all the HVAC filters. We are looking at library HVAC repair on the Parkway roof as a possibility. We're still waiting in on a quote. Depending on the quote and the area, we may need to prioritize the library vent system over some ventilation in the restrooms at Parkway, but we're going to try to look to see if we can do both to try to work on some improved ventilation there. So working on prioritizing where the greatest need is in our buildings right now, and what we can manage to support this summer. Exterior, outdoors unlimited is gonna continue to mow and trim our property, and they also have been contracted to treat our baseball diamonds and tennis courts to make sure that those stay in nice condition for community use. This tennis court at Glen Hills will be refinished to reduce further damage and to make it a more enticing space for our friends who like to play pickleball there and for our students to use during their tennis units. Maintenance at the courtyard area at Parkway will continue, and then cleaning some debris from the property and supporting maintenance of Glen Hills outdoor classroom as well. So with a lot of really big work and really heavy lift that needs to happen over the summer for our custodial staff. So if you see them, please, let them keep up that momentum and always let them know what a great job they're doing, because it's big work.
It's huge work.
Yeah.
They're so nice while they do it. They are so nice.
Yes.
They're always very can-do. You have
I know,
questions?
yeah, I know, we're up, but I just wanna.
Okay,
Go
let's,
ahead.
I don't remember where we are. Let's start with Karen. I think that's.
I did have, actually, I was just wondering, looking at like the locker room and bathroom cleaning, it just made me wonder what the typical cleaning routine is. 'Cause obviously this is much deeper, but it just seems like those would be spaces that would be pretty well sanitized regularly.
They're mopping them every night, wiping them down every night, cleaning toilets every night, wiping down sinks. I mean, that's part of the normal maintenance
Yeah.
routine. This really entails them going through it. They hose it from floor to ceiling, and it's the walls, it's wiping down, there's more of a deep clean that happens, and it's intense. It's almost like a power washer that.
Right.
Yeah.
I've seen them do some of that summer work.
Yeah, but yes, they are cleaned and sanitized every night.
It's like,
Only in the summer.
Yeah, I know, we don't wait till.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question, thank you.
I have a question that maybe you won't know the answer to, but the people who do our mowing, do they also maintain, so like there's the park area over here, the wood chipped area that kids use, like, are they responsible for like thinking about debris or like weeds as they pop up in that actual like playground area, or are they just like?
An outdoor classroom or where the
No, I'm thinking
playground
like,
is?
so the playground, right?
At
Like-
Glen Hills or?
Glen Hill, we're at Glen Hills, right?
Yeah.
Glen Hills, thank you. Is it our staff that kind of manages that playground piece, I guess, at both schools? Or do we look to our mowing people to like do that? Again, I can always.
I believe
Yeah,
I believe that they're only doing weeds on the ball diamonds.
okay, so it would be like our staff, right, who does that, okay. A thought that I had when you were talking about the pool and all the repairs is I'm just like, I'm going back to our previous discussion about thinking about community usage and rentals and are there any of our community partners? Maybe that's something we build into, or I don't know if that's too presumptuous to think about tapping our community partners if those repairs end up being, quite hefty. Or thinking about how you build that into those agreements as we go forward and thinking about regular repair and maintenance to prepare for bigger things that we don't anticipate. Okay,
And we can bring forward, when we bring forward back some of those agreements, we can talk about what's already in place right now and
Okay.
how we probably will still be in a situation, even with those other agreements in place that,
where it's our responsibility. I understand that, but I guess I just wonder if there's some leverage or negotiating power we might have in thinking about future agreements or usage.
Yep.
That's all. Thank you.
Katie?
To add on to Danielle's point, is there a way we could like sell it to Nicolay that, hey, you could do like open a physical therapy unit or something if we have this working? And maybe you wanna help us since we have money, we don't.
I think they have their own lists.
Yeah,
That's true.
Chris? All right, thank you for the update.
Yep.
Please thank Kevin and the custodial staff.
Will
I
do.
know they take it really seriously. I've seen them, I've been in the buildings during the summers and they work really hard. They're like devoted to the cleanliness before the school year starts.
Well, the first day of school is always amazing.
And I think the first time I saw what was happening, I don't remember why I was here, it's years ago, they're just like moving all the furniture out of all the classrooms, just like 4 people.
doing every classroom in the building, it's really intense, so very appreciated.
There's a notable smell difference between the last day of school
All right. Anything else? Any more comments, visitors, Mr. Martin? Okay, we are moving on to item 6B, which is a proposal to move into closed session. Is there a motion?
I move to recess into closed session for section 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or the conducting of other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session.
Second.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Kitty Avalos?
Aye.
Chris Robinson?
Aye.
Karen Cromwell?
Aye.
Danielle Bailey?
Aye.
And I vote aye. We move into your office or?
Yeah.
Do we anticipate any business at the end of this?
Yes, I'm.
Is this a thing that I can like open and shut like a Korean fan?
It's okay, it's okay.
I could teach you Korean fan
Yeah,
dancing.
okay, we're actually.
We're back on? Okay, we're back in open session. There are no motions to consider coming out of close. Moving on to item 7A, board planning and preview. We've already talked about advocacy opportunities. We have some school events coming up. I would encourage board members, if you can, to try to attend one of the music concerts. I will be at the choir concert company. So if you wanna see these arthritic fingers in sad arthritic motion on a piano, that's a good one.
Do we need to notice? I was
gonna
thinking
ask
about
that.
trying to go to some of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to make I'm trying to think here. Let's talk about it. Who thinks?
Do you want me to just notice all of them?
Just notice all of them
Yeah,
I
'cause-
just will notice them.
and the transition, please.
yeah, the transition I'm gonna try to get to.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to get 2 of the 3 music things. Nicolay has a school board meeting on Monday at which they are, on the 12th, at which they're gonna be talking about the school counselor. It's been changed to May 12th.
Oh, it was? Oh, I can't go.
I believe it's been recommended to approve the position. I think that's the recommendation,
Oh,
the 5th counselor position. Anyway, I'm sorry, this is on an aside. So if y'all can make any of these, that would be great. Yeah, I guess we should probably notice them.
Alright, any need to notice PTO or foundation since that's tomorrow?
It's just me, but I actually will be in a conference, so.
Okay.
Do you know what time any of these things are, Anna?
The
The music concert is at 6:30.
Yep.
They all start at 6:30?
They all start at 6:30.
Including the transition?
Let me double check.
The
on
third and fourth grade.
transition. Transition starts at 6.
Okay.
School.
All right, thank you.
My daughter sounds fine.
There's only one item left on the agenda.
Move to adjourn.
Aye, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank
That
you,
was
everyone.
Karen and Danielle, first and second for the record.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anna, thank you. Michelle,
Thank you.